The warning sirens screamed through the corridors of the human exploration ship. Dawn. Lieutenant Commander Nari ran toward the bridge, her plasma rifle bouncing against her back with each step. The ship shook violently as something massive struck its hull. "Report," Nari shouted as she burst onto the bridge. Captain Dong-Su pointed at the main screen. 3 alien warships just dropped out of hyperspace. "They're surrounding us." Nari stared at the display. The alien vessels were unlike anything in the human database. They looked like giant crystals floating in space, each one twice the size of her ship. Blue energy crackled across their surfaces. "Any response to our communications?" she asked. "Nothing," replied Communications Officer Jine. "They're jamming all our frequencies." The ship shuddered again. This time, the lights flickered. "They're not trying to destroy us," Dong-Su said. "These feel like warning shots." Nari grabbed the intercom. "All hands to battle stations." "This is not a drill." She turned to her team. "Hyun-woo, So-young, Taemin, gear up. We might have visitors." Her squad moved quickly. Hyun-woo checked his demolition charges. So-young powered up her hacking equipment, and Taemin secured his medical supplies. They had worked together for 3 years, exploring the Outer Rim colonies and defending human settlements from pirates and hostile wildlife. The main screen flickered. A face appeared that made everyone on the bridge freeze. The alien had crystalline skin that reflected light like a prism. Its eyes were pure white, without pupils. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. Lower your shields and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in your destruction." Captain Dong-Su stepped forward. "This is Captain Dong-Su of the United Earth Colonial Fleet. You are in violation of interstellar law. Identify yourself and state your intentions." The alien's expression did not change. "I am War Prime Kelther of the Worthen Empire. Your laws mean nothing to us. You have 30 seconds to comply." The transmission ended. Stegin said, "They're powering up weapons. Energy readings are off the charts." Nari looked at her captain. They both knew they had no choice. Dawn was a science vessel, not a warship. It carried enough weapons to deal with pirates, but nothing that could match those massive alien ships. "Lower shields," Dong-Su ordered, "but keep all weapons ready." "Nari," he said quietly, "get your team to the armory. They board us, then pay for every meter." Nari nodded. She had studied every boarding action in human military history. The key was to use the ship's layout to their advantage, force the enemy to fight in narrow corridors where their numbers meant less. The ship shook as docking clamps attached to the hull. Nari and her team took positions in the main corridor, leading from the docking bay. She checked her plasma rifle one more time. The weapon was her constant companion, a masterpiece of human engineering that could adapt to any combat situation. "Remember," she told her team, "we're not trying to win. We're trying to buy time and show them that humans don't go down easy." The docking bay doors exploded inward. Smoke filled the corridor. Through the haze, Nari saw shapes moving. The aliens were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies that seemed to be made of living crystal. They moved with mechanical precision, their weapons glowing with the same blue energy as their ships. "Fire!" Nari shouted. The corridor erupted in gunfire. Nari's plasma rifle spat bolts of superheated energy. The alien's crystal skin absorbed some of the damage, but they were not invincible. The first wave fell under the human assault, but more kept coming. The aliens moved differently than any enemy Nari had faced. They advanced in perfect formation, their weapons firing in coordinated bursts. It was like fighting a machine rather than living beings. "They're adapting to our tactics," So-young called out. "Their formation is changing to counter our crossfire." noticed it too. After each exchange, the aliens adjusted their approach. Okay, they were learning from every shot fired, every move made. Okay, but there was something they clearly had not expected. Human creativity. Hyenwu, can you bring down that support beam? She asked. Already on it, he replied, setting charges on the corridor's ceiling. The explosion brought down tons of metal and debris, blocking the main route, but the aliens simply blasted through it, their weapons cutting through the wreckage like paper. Fall back to checkpoint 2, Nari ordered. They retreated through the ship's corridors, fighting a running battle. Nari's rifle worked perfectly, its adaptive systems automatically adjusting for each target. But for every alien that fell, 2 more took its place. At checkpoint 2, they made another stand. Taman had set up a defensive position behind overturned tables and equipment. The aliens advanced steadily, their crystal bodies reflecting the emergency lighting in strange patterns. Their weapons are more advanced than ours, Soyoung reported, but they're not using them creatively. They're following some kind of program. Ari realized she was right. The aliens fought with incredible precision, but no imagination. They took the most direct route, used the most efficient tactics, but they never surprised her. It was like fighting a very advanced computer. She began to exploit this. When the aliens expected her to retreat, she advanced. When they set up for a frontal assault, she attacked from the side. Her rifle sang in her hands, each shot placed exactly where it would do the most damage. Nari, behind you, Stamen shouted. She spun around. An alien warrior had flanked their position. Its weapon was aimed directly at her chest. Time seemed too slow as she brought her rifle up, knowing she would be too late. The alien fired. But instead of the killing shot she expected, blue energy wrapped around her like chains. Her muscles seized up, and she fell to the ground, paralyzed, but conscious. Capture, not kill, the alien said in perfect human language. War Prime Kelther wants to study this one. Nari watched helplessly as her team was overwhelmed. Hyenwu fought until his ammunition ran out, then used his bare hands. Soyoung tried to delete the ship's computer files, but was stunned before she could finish. Taman was captured while trying to reach her with medical supplies. War Prime Kelther entered the corridor. He was larger than the other aliens, his crystal body shot through with veins of gold. He looked at the human defenders with what might have been curiosity. It's fascinating, he said, his voice like wind chimes. Your species fights with such disorder, yet you inflict significant casualties, most unusual. He picked up Nari's plasma rifle, examining it carefully. This weapon adapts 2 different combat scenarios, impressive technology for such a primitive species. Kelther looked down at Nari, who was still paralyzed, but glaring at him with pure hatred. You interest me, human, okay? Your tactical mind, your refusal to surrender, even when defeat is certain. I think you will be most useful for our studies, okay? Gestured to his warriors. Take them to the holding cells. Treat them carefully. They are valuable specimens. As they carried her away, Nari heard the sounds of her ship being systematically searched. The aliens moved through it like experts, taking everything of value, cataloging every piece of technology. The last thing she saw before they sedated her was War Prime Kelther holding her plasma rifle, turning it over in his crystalline hands. He seemed particularly interested in its adaptive targeting system. Soon, human, he said softly, you will show us all your secrets, your weapons, your tactics, your stubborn refusal to accept defeat. We will learn everything. Fought against the sedative, but it was too strong. As consciousness faded, she made herself a promise. Okay, these aliens thought they had captured her by taking her weapon. They had no idea what they had really done. They were about to learn that the most dangerous weapon humanity possessed was not made of metal and energy. It was made of flesh and blood and an unbreakable will to survive. The real weapon was just getting started. Nari woke up in a cell made of the same crystal material as the Vorthon ships. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that never dimmed. She sat up slowly, testing her muscles. The paralysis weapon had worn off, but her body still felt heavy and strange. The cell was small, maybe 3 meters square. There was a sleeping mat, a waste disposal unit, and a small slot in the wall that she guessed was for food. No windows, no obvious way out. Door was seamless crystal that showed her distorted reflection. She heard voices from other cells, human voices. New arrival, called someone from the cell next to hers. You awake? Yes, Nari replied. Who are you? Daehyun, Marine Corps. Been here about 6 months. His voice was tired, but still strong. What ship were you on? Kaigakdon. I'm Lieutenant Commander Nari. Is my team here? 3 others came in with you yesterday. They're in cells down the hall. All alive, all healthy. The crystal heads keep us in good shape. Nari pressed her face against the wall. Why? You'll find out soon enough. They're going to want you to fight. Before Nari could ask more questions, the cell door dissolved. A Vorthan guard stood outside, holding a weapon that looked like a crystal staff. 2 more guards flanked him. Prisoner Nari, the guard said, you will come with us. Nari had no choice. The guards led her through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. Other prisoners moved past in small groups, all escorted by Vorthan guards. She saw humans, but also aliens she did not recognize. Tall, thin beings with gray skin, short, furry creatures with large eyes. Few others that looked almost human, but with blue-tinted skin and extra arms. Where are we going? She asked. The guard did not answer. They entered a massive chamber that took Nari's breath away. It was an arena, but unlike anything she had ever seen. The floor was covered in sand that sparkled like diamonds. The walls rose up for hundreds of meters, lined with seats filled with Vorthan spectators. Their crystal bodies caught and reflected the arena lights, creating a dazzling display. At the center of the arena stood War Prime Calther. He still carried her plasma rifle, examining it like a treasured artifact. Ah, the human warrior awakens, he said. Welcome to our combat research facility. Here, we study the fighting techniques of all species in our empire. Nari looked around. The arena was huge, at least 100 meters across. Scattered throughout were pieces of broken equipment, chunks of metal, and other debris. It looked like the aftermath of many battles. You want me to fight? She said. Indeed. We have observed that humans fight differently from other species. Most surrender quickly when faced with superior technology. But you continued to resist, even when defeat was certain. This interests us. Kilthor gestured to the arena floor. You will demonstrate your combat abilities. We will record and analyze your techniques, and if I refuse, then your team members will take your place, one by one, until you comply. Nari felt anger boil up inside her. These aliens thought they could control her by threatening her people. They had no idea what they were dealing with. It's fine, she said, but I want to see my team first. I want to know they're safe. Kelther considered this. Very well. Bring the others. Guards brought in Hyeon-woo, So-young, and Taemin. They looked tired but unharmed. Hyeon-woo's eyes were full of rage. So-young appeared to be studying everything around her. K-min was checking each of them for injuries. Nari, Hyeon-woo said, don't do this. We can find another way. No, she replied. We play by their rules for now, but we learn everything we can. Another prisoner was brought into the arena. Kairi recognized the species from the corridors, one of the gray-skinned aliens. It was tall and thin, with long arms that ended in clawed hands. It moved with liquid grace. This is a Keth warrior, Kelther announced. They are known for their speed and agility. You will fight until one of you cannot continue. the Keth warrior hissed at Nari, showing rows of sharp teeth. It crouched low, ready to spring. Begin, Kelther commanded. The Keth moved faster than Nari had expected. It crossed the arena in seconds, claws aimed at her throat. But Nari had fought vast opponents before. She rolled to the side, grabbing a piece of broken metal from the sand. The Keth spun around, confused. Most opponents tried to run or dodge. Continuously, Nari had armed herself instead. She held the metal shard like a knife, testing its weight and balance. It was not her plasma rifle, but it was sharp and strong. The Keth circled her, looking for an opening dot. Nari noticed something important. The Keth was fast, but it attacked in predictable patterns. Caught, always aimed for the throat or heart, always approached from the front. It was skilled, but not creative. When the Keth lunged again, Nari was ready. She feinted left, then dove right, slashing with her improvised weapon. The metal cut across the alien's ribs, drawing dark blood. The Keth howled and backed away. It looked confused. Nari had not just defended herself. She had attacked in a way it did not expect. Interesting, Kelther murmured. The human adapts her tactics based on available resources. Nari did not wait for the Keth to recover. She grabbed sand and threw it in the alien's eyes, then followed up with a kick to its knee. The Keth stumbled, and Nari struck again with her metal shard. The fight was over in minutes. The Keth lay on the ground, defeated, but alive. Nari had been careful not to kill it. She stood over her opponent, breathing hard, but victorious. The Vorten audience made sounds like wind chimes singing. She realized they were cheering. Remarkable, Kelther said. Ku created a weapon from arena debris and used environmental factors. To your advantage. Most species fight with their natural abilities only. Nari was led back to her cell, but not before she saw something that gave her hope. Other prisoners were watching her with new interest. A human woman with short, black hair caught her eye and nodded slightly. Back in her cell, Daeheim called out to her. That was some fight. Been a while since I saw someone make it look that easy. It wasn't easy, Nari replied, but I learned something important. They expect us to fight like animals, with tooth and claw. They don't understand that humans use tools. Tools. Everything around us is a potential weapon. It's that metal shard, the sand, even the way the arena is designed. We just have to see it differently than they do. Over the following days, Nari fought more opponents. A heavily armored creature that moved like a living tank, swarm of small, fast aliens that attacked in groups. Each time, she found ways to use the arena against them. She made spears from broken equipment, used sand to blind enemies, and even figured out how to use the arena's lighting to confuse opponents. The Vortens recorded everything, fascinated by her unconventional tactics. But Nari was learning too. She studied the guards, the facility, and most importantly, the other prisoners. During mealtimes, she met Mi-kyung, a human engineer who had survived a colony attack. Kyung had been observing the arena systems and had some interesting ideas. The crystal walls conduct energy, Mi-kyung whispered during one meal. If we could find a way to overload them. ... Not yet, Nari replied. We need to understand more first, but keep watching, keep learning. She also met Taiho, a quiet man, who had been a strategic planner before his capture. He had been mapping the facility and tracking guard schedules. His information would be valuable when the time came. After 2 weeks in the arena, Nari had won every fight. The Vorthons were impressed, but she could see they were also beginning to worry. She was not just winning, she was doing it in ways they could not predict or understand. Your combat efficiency improves with each encounter, Kelther observed. After her latest victory. This is unusual. Most species reach a plateau in their abilities. Nari looked up at him from the arena floor. Maybe You're studying the wrong thing. Explain. You think the weapon makes the warrior, but you have it backwards. She gestured at the plasma rifle he still carried. That rifle didn't make me dangerous. I made it dangerous. Take away every weapon, every tool, every advantage, and a human will find a way to fight. We don't need your technology or your rules. Kelthor's crystalline face showed no expression, but Nari could sense his confusion. You are merely one individual. One human cannot threaten an empire. I smiled. Around the arena, she could see other prisoners watching. Humans and aliens alike were learning from her example. They were beginning to understand that the Vorthans were not invincible. We'll see about that, she said. That night, as she lay on her sleeping mat, Nari began to plan. The Vorthans had made a mistake. They thought they were studying her fighting techniques, but they were actually teaching her about their weaknesses. Soon, she would show them the difference between a weapon and a warrior. Nari had been in the arena for 3 weeks when she faced her most challenging opponent yet. The creature stood 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin like black stone. Its eyes glowed red in the arena lights. The Vorthans called it a destroyer, and it had killed 12 fighters before her. Its opponent uses brute force and overwhelming power, Kelthor announced to the crowd. It has never been defeated in combat. Nari circled the arena, looking for useful debris. She found a long piece of curved metal and a handful of small, sharp fragments. The destroyer watched her with burning eyes, flexing its 4 massive arms. When the fight began, the destroyer charged straight at her. Its strategy was simple: crush everything in its path. Nari dove to the side, but one of its arms caught her shoulder and sent her rolling across the sand. Pain shot through her body. The creature was stronger than anything she had faced before. It turned toward her, moving with surprising speed for something so large. Nari scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. Strength versus strength would not work. She needed to think differently. The creature was powerful, but not smart. Relied on raw force, not strategy. She picked up sand and threw it at the destroyer's eyes. The creature roared and swung wildly, but Nari was already moving. She used her curved metal piece to deflect one of its arms, then struck at its knee with a sharp fragment. The destroyer stumbled, but did not fall. It was too strong, too durable. Nari realized she needed to change her approach completely. She began to run around the arena, staying just out of reach. The destroyer followed, growing more frustrated with each missed attack. Nari was not just avoiding it, she was studying it. The creature's movements followed a pattern. It always used its upper arms first, then its lower arms. It favored its right side. Most importantly, it got tired faster than it looked like it should. Nari spotted what she needed near the arena wall, a piece of metal shaped like a hook, attached to a long chain. She grabbed it and kept running. The destroyer charged again. This time, Nari did not dodge. She ran straight at it, sliding between its legs at the last second. As she passed underneath, she wrapped the chain around its ankles. The creature crashed to the ground with a sound like thunder. Nari was already moving, wrapping more chain around its arms. The destroyer thrashed and roared, but the more it struggled, the more tangled it became. Impossible, she heard one of the Vorthon guards say. The destroyer has never been defeated. Kara stood over the trapped creature. She could have killed it, but she chose not to. Instead, she looked up at Kelthor. Koya is not weak, she said, but it only knows one way to fight. When that way fails, it has nothing else. The Vorthon crowd fell silent. Nari had done something they thought was impossible. She had beaten their most powerful gladiator using nothing but scraps and intelligence. That night, cased back in her cell, Nari heard whispers from all around her. Word of her victory was spreading through the entire facility. But more than that, Other prisoners were beginning to understand what she had been trying to show them. Nari, Daehyun called softly. I fought today, used a broken pipe like you taught me. Made it look easy. It's from another cell. Meek-young added. The guards are starting to worry. It's talking about changing the arena rules. Nari smiled in the darkness. The Worthens were learning that human tactics were spreading to other species. But they still did not understand the real lesson. Over the next few days, Nari continued to fight and win. But more importantly, she continued to teach. During mealtimes, she showed other prisoners how to see weapons in everyday objects, how to use their environment as an advantage, how to think beyond the obvious. The key is not to fight the way they expect, she told a group of mixed species during one meal. They study us like we are machines. They think if they understand our programming, they can predict our actions. But we are not machines. A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms raised the question, but their technology is superior. Their weapons are more powerful. Technology is just tools, Nari replied. Tools do not think. Tools do not adapt. Tools do not refuse to give up. We do. She looked around the group. Every species here has something unique, something the Vorthens cannot replicate or predict. We just have to remember what that is. Junho, a human who had been a special forces operator, nodded slowly. You were talking about more than just fighting. Exactly. We're talking about who we are, what makes us more than just the sum of our parts. The next day, Nari was brought to face a new type of opponent. Not a single creature, but a combat drone. It was made of the same crystal material as the Vorthen ships, with multiple weapons and sensors. It moved with perfect precision. This drone has been programmed with the combat data of every species in our empire, Kelthor announced. It knows every fighting style, every tactic, every weakness. It cannot be surprised or confused. Nari looked at the drone as it hovered in the center of the arena. Its sensors tracked her every movement. She could see weapon ports opening and closing as it calculated the best way to defeat her. Begin, Kelthor commanded. The drone immediately fired energy bolts at Nari. She rolled behind a piece of debris, but the drone had already calculated her likely hiding spots. More bolts struck all around her. Nari realized this was different from fighting living opponents. The drone did not get tired, did not feel pain, did not make mistakes based on emotion. It was pure logic and calculation, but that was also its weakness. Nari began to move in a pattern that looked random, but was actually carefully planned. She zigzagged across the arena, sometimes diving for cover, sometimes running in straight lines, sometimes doubling back on herself. The drone's sensors tracked her, trying to predict her next move. But Nari was not following any logical pattern. She was being deliberately unpredictable. The drone fired where its calculations said she would be, but she was never there. It adjusted its predictions, but she changed her behavior again. The machine was learning, but she was staying one step ahead of its learning. After 10 minutes of this, something unexpected happened. The drone hesitated. The sensors had gathered so much contradictory data that it could not decide on the best course of action. Nari seized the moment. She grabbed a handful of sand and threw it at the drone's sensors. The machine tried to compensate, but its vision was blocked. Nari used a piece of metal to jam its weapon ports, then found the power coupling she had been looking for. The drone crashed to the ground. Deactivated. The arena fell completely silent. Carrie had defeated their most advanced combat system using nothing but unpredictability and improvisation. How? Kelthor asked. For the first time, his voice showed confusion instead of cold calculation. Your drone knew every fighting style in your empire, Nari replied. Okay, but it did not know how to fight someone who refuses to follow any style at all. She looked up at the crowd of Vorthens. You study us like we are problems to be solved. We are not problems. We are people. We do not follow your rules or your logic. We make our own. That night, the entire facility buzzed with excitement. Not just the human prisoners, but aliens from dozens of species. They had seen something that changed their understanding of what was possible. Borum, the human scientist, managed to get close to Nari during the evening meal. I have been studying their technology, she whispered. The crystals they use for everything. They have a weakness. They depend on perfect harmony. We can disrupt that harmony. Not yet, Nari replied. We need more people to understand first. The real weapon is not any device or technique. It is the idea that we do not have to accept defeat. She looked around at the other prisoners. More of them were watching her now. Not just humans, but aliens who had given up hope. They were beginning to remember what it meant to fight back. They took my plasma rifle because they thought it made me dangerous, Nari said quietly. But they were wrong. The rifle was just metal and energy. The real weapon was always inside me, inside all of us. Taiho, who had been listening carefully, asked, "What is the real weapon?" Nari smiled. The refusal to be broken. The ability to adapt and overcome. By the knowledge that no matter how hopeless things look, there is always another way. She stood up, and every prisoner in the room looked at her with new understanding. Tomorrow, we start teaching them what that really means. Awakening had begun. The plan began during maintenance duty. Nari and 20 other prisoners were assigned to clean the arena after each day's fights. Dave Orthans thought this was safe work. What could prisoners do with mops and cleaning supplies? They were about to find out. Todd Kyung-Su, a former ship engineer, had discovered something important while cleaning near the arena's power systems. The energy grid that runs this place, he whispered to Nari as they worked. It connects to everything. The shields, the communication arrays, even the planetary defense network. Nari kept scrubbing the arena floor, but her mind was racing. Can you access it? With the right tools? Maybe. We would need a distraction. Something big enough to pull all their attention. Nari looked around the arena. Tomorrow was the grand tournament, a special event broadcast across the entire Fourth and Empire. War Prime Kelthor himself would be present, along with hundreds of high-ranking officials. It was perfect. Leave the distraction to me, she said. That evening, Nari met with her core team in the meal hall. Keihin, Mikyung, Taiho, Borum, Junho, and a dozen others sat close together, speaking in whispers. Tomorrow, we make our move, Nari said. But this is not just about escaping, We are going to send a message that will reach every corner of their empire. Kyung looked worried. The odds are impossible, They have thousands of guards, advanced weapons, automated defenses, Nari replied. Impossible odds are where humans do their best work. She laid out the plan. It was complex, requiring perfect timing and absolute trust. Each person had a specific role. More importantly, each understood that they were not just fighting for their own freedom, but for something much larger. The next morning, the arena filled with Warthon spectators. Nari had never seen so many of them in one place. Their crystal bodies created a dazzling display as they reflected the arena lights. At the center of the VIP section sat War Prime Kelthor, still carrying her plasma rifle like a trophy. Today's tournament features our most successful research subjects, Kelthor announced to the crowd. They will demonstrate the combat techniques we have cataloged from across the galaxy. Nari was led into the arena with 5 other prisoners. The plan called for her to fight normally until the signal was given. Then everything would change. Her first opponent was a Keth warrior, similar to the one she had faced weeks ago. The fight went as expected. Nari used improvised weapons and tactical thinking to win quickly. The crowd cheered. Her second opponent was one of the 4 armed creatures. Again, she won by outthinking. rather than overpowering her enemy. The Vorthines were impressed, but not surprised. It was during her third fight that Yanji, working in the facility's data center, sent the signal. A brief flicker of the arena lights that told Nari it was time. Instead of fighting her opponent, Nari did something unexpected. She helped the alien to its feet and stood beside it, facing the crowd. "People of the galaxy," she shouted, her voice carrying across the arena, "look at what they have done to us. Look at how they make us fight each other for their entertainment." Confusion rippled through the Vorthan audience. This was not part of the program. Nari's opponent, a reptilian alien from a distant world, looked confused for a moment. Then understanding dawned in its eyes. It stood straighter and faced the crowd alongside her. "We are not animals in a zoo," Nari continued. "We are thinking beings with families, homes, dreams, and we refuse to dance for your amusement any longer." Warprime. Kelthar rose from his seat, silenced the human. End this disruption immediately, but it was too late. Around the arena, other prisoners were rising up. The maintenance workers dropped their tools and revealed weapons they had built from spare parts. Guards found their crystal weapons jamming as Bioram's sabotage devices activated. Kung Su's voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "Attention all prisoners. The time is now. Remember what Nari taught us. We are more than they think we are." The arena erupted into chaos. But it was not random violence, it was coordinated resistance. Each group of prisoners had specific targets and objectives. They moved with purpose and determination. John Ho led a team to secure the armory. They faced heavy resistance, but used human tactics that confused the Vorthon defenders. Instead of fighting head-on, they used stealth and misdirection. They turned the facility's own security systems against it. Meek Young's group took control of the power systems. The Vorthans had never imagined that prisoners could understand their technology well enough to use it against them. Their mistake became their downfall. Wu Jin, a former diplomat, had been working with alien prisoners from other species. Now, those alliances paid off. Creatures that had been enemies in the arena fought side by side against their captors. The key to the rebellion was not superior firepower or technology. It was something the Vorthans could not understand or counter. The willingness to fight for something bigger than yourself. Nari found herself face to face with a squad of elite Vorthon guards. They surrounded her with weapons drawn, confident in their superior equipment and training. "Surrender now, human," their leader commanded, "and your death will be quick." Nari smiled. "You still do not understand. You think this is about me, but I am just one person. The real weapon you should fear is not standing in front of you." "What weapon?" the guard asked, confused. "Hope," Nari replied. Around the arena, the rebellion was spreading beyond what anyone had planned. Guards were deserting their posts. Some aliens who had served the Empire were switching sides. The idea that resistance was possible was spreading like wildfire. EU UNG's BROADCAST equipment sent the images across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, beings who had accepted Vortan rule saw humans and aliens fighting back. They saw that the Empire was not invincible. The guard captain raised his weapon to fire at Nari, but Hyanwu appeared behind him. Her old demolitions expert had fashioned explosives from cleaning chemicals and metal fragments. The blast sent crystal shards flying in all directions. "Thought you could use some backup?" Hyanwu said with a grin. So Young's voice crackled over a captured communication device. "Nari, I have hacked into their command systems. The planetary defense grid is going crazy. They cannot tell friend from enemy anymore." Taemin appeared with a group of freed prisoners, all armed with improvised weapons. "Medical bay is secure. We have supplies, and wounded are being treated." The battle raged for hours. The Vorthans threw everything they had at the rebels, but could not contain the uprising. Every time they thought they had suppressed one group, another appeared somewhere else. War-Prime Kelter retreated to his command center, clutching Nari's plasma rifle. Around him, his officers reported disaster after disaster. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are primitives with improvised weapons. They have superior technology, superior numbers, superior everything." "Sir," one officer reported, "the rebellion has spread to 7 other facilities. Reports are coming in from 12 star systems. The broadcast has reached every corner of the Empire." Calther stared at the screens, showing the chaos. One single human did this. "No, sir," the officer corrected. "According to our analysis, this required coordination between hundreds of individuals across multiple species. The human Nari was just the catalyst." On the main screen, they could see Nari leading a group of mixed prisoners toward the command center. She moved with confidence and purpose, no longer the captured soldier they had brought here months ago. "She has become something we did not anticipate," Kelter said quietly. "Something our models cannot predict or counter." The command center doors exploded inward. Nari strode through the smoke and debris, followed by dozens of freed prisoners. Her clothes were torn and dirty, but her eyes burned with determination. "Hello, Kelther," she said. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Ta. The War Prime looked down at the plasma rifle in his hands. "This weapon." "No," Nari replied. "My people, its people, and the people of every species you have enslaved." She looked around the command center at the terrified Vorthon officers. "You wanted to study what makes humans dangerous? Did you learn anything useful?" Kelther's crystalline face showed something that might have been fear. "You are one species among thousands. You cannot stand against the full might of our empire." Nari stepped closer. "You are right. Humans alone could not do this, but we are not alone anymore. You taught us something important when you put us all together in your arena." She gestured to the aliens standing beside her, creatures from dozens of different worlds, all united in their desire for freedom. "You taught us that we are stronger together than apart, that when people stop fighting each other and start fighting for each other, amazing things become possible." The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors. More prisoners were coming, and they were not alone. Kyung-Soo's voice came over the communication system with the news that changed everything. "Nari, you need to hear this. You're getting signals from across the galaxy. Uprisings on 47 worlds. The Vorthon fleet is in full retreat from 6 star systems. The Empire is collapsing." Nari looked at Kilther one more time. "You wanted to know what makes humans dangerous? It is not our weapons or our technology. It is our refusal to accept that something cannot be changed." War Prime Kelther stood in the ruins of his command center, watching his empire crumble on dozens of screens. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy: rebellions, fleet desertions, entire star systems declaring independence. The careful order he had spent decades building was falling apart. "It ends now," he said, his crystalline voice sharp with anger. "Human Nari, I challenge you to single combat. Winner takes all." Kay looked around at her companions. Hien Wu shook his head. Saw Young frowned, and Taemin stepped protectively closer. They had fought too hard to get here, to risk everything on one battle. "You do not have to do this," Daehin said. "We have already won. Your message has reached the galaxy." But Nari understood something the others did not. This was never really about escaping one prison or defeating one enemy. It was about proving that hope could triumph over despair, that creativity could overcome force, that the human spirit could not be broken. "I accept," she said. Kelthor smiled, showing crystalline teeth. "Excellent." We returned to the arena where this began. "You may choose any weapon you wish from our armory." I will use the most advanced combat technology our empire has created. I do not need your armory, Nari replied. I will fight with what I brought to this place. You brought nothing. We confiscated all your equipment. Nari touched her chest. Over her heart, I brought everything I need. An hour later, they stood facing each other in the great arena. The prisoner rebellion had spread throughout the facility, but this central space had been cleared for the final confrontation. Thousands watched from the stands, freed prisoners, surrendering guards, Vorten officials who had nowhere else to go. Kelthor wore armor that gleamed like polished diamond. Energy fields surrounded him, deflecting weapons and enhancing his strength. His weapon was a crystalline sword that hummed with power, capable of cutting through any known material. He looked like a warrior god from ancient legends. Nari wore the same simple prison clothes she had been given months ago. Her only weapon was a piece of broken metal she had picked up from the arena floor. The same type of improvised blade she had used in her very first fight. You faced the accumulated technology of 1,000 conquered worlds, Kelthar announced. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. You still do not understand? Nari replied. This was never about technology. The fight began. Moved with inhuman speed, his enhanced armor carrying him across the arena in seconds. His crystal sword sliced through the air where Nari had been standing, leaving a glowing trail of energy. But Nari was not there. She had learned to read opponents, to see patterns in their attacks. Kelthor was fast and strong, but he was also predictable. Atasian, his technology made him powerful, but not creative. She rolled behind a piece of debris, using the arena scattered obstacles to break his line of sight. Kelthor's sensors tracked her, but she was already moving to her next position. You cannot hide forever, human, Kelthor called out. My systems will find you. I am not hiding, Nari replied from somewhere. In the arena, I am learning. She darted out from behind cover, striking at Kelthor's armor with a metal shard. The improvised weapon could not penetrate his defenses, but that was not the point. She was testing his reactions, studying his movements. Kelthor spun around, his sword carving through the space she had occupied. Again, she was gone. Her attack had served its purpose. She now knew how his armor responded to threats. Stand still and fight. Kelthor roared, frustrated by her tactics. Why? So you can use your superior weapons against me. Nari appeared on his other side, striking again before disappearing. That is your way of fighting, not mine. The battle continued for 20 minutes. Kelthor grew increasingly angry as Nari refused to fight on his terms. She would not stand still for a direct confrontation. She would not try to match his technology with better technology. Instead, she fought like a human. She used the arena's environment against him, sand thrown in his sensors at the right moment, debris used to tangle his feet. The arena's lighting turned into a weapon by reflecting off his crystalline armor to blind him at crucial moments. This is not combat, Kelthor said, breathing heavily. This is trickery. No, Nari replied, appearing behind him with her metal shard ready. This is evolution. She struck at a joint in his armor, not trying to break through, but to understand how it moved. Each attack taught her something new about his defenses. She was not trying to overpower him, she was trying to solve him. Kelthor realized what she was doing. You are studying me like I studied you. The difference is, I learned faster. Nari had found what she was looking for. The armor had one weakness. It required perfect balance to function properly. All the advanced systems depended on his center of gravity. Remaining stable, she began to attack his balance instead of his armor. A strike to the knee that made him stumble, set thrown to blind him at the moment he needed to recover. A push at exactly the right angle to send him off balance. Kelthor fell to one knee, his armor systems struggling to compensate. In that moment of vulnerability, Nari did something that shocked everyone watching. She dropped her weapon and stepped back. "Get up," she said. Keltar stared at her in confusion. "What?" said. "Get up. Fight me properly. You had me defeated. Why did you not strike?" Nari looked around the arena at all the faces, watching them. Humans and aliens who had fought together. Former enemies who had become allies. People who had learned that there was another way to live besides conquest and submission. "Because that is not who we are," she said. "We do not win by becoming like our enemies. We win by being better than them." Kelto struggled to his feet, his armor damaged but still functional. "I do not understand your logic." "That is exactly the problem. You think everything is about logic and calculation. But life is not a program you can debug or a system you can optimize. It is messy and unpredictable and beautiful." She picked up her metal shard again. "You wanted to study what makes humans dangerous. Here's your answer. We care about things that do not make logical sense. We fight for people we barely know. We risk everything for ideas that cannot be measured or quantified." Kelthor raised his crystal sword. "Caring is weakness. Emotion is inefficiency. Then why are you losing?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around the arena, the crowd had fallen silent. Even the freed prisoners watched in fascination as their champion faced down the symbol of everything they had fought against. "I am not losing," Kelthor said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Look around you," Nari replied. "Your empire is crumbling. Your subjects are rebelling. Your own guards are laying down their weapons. All because one human refused to accept defeat." She gestured to the stands filled with former prisoners. "You had superior technology, superior numbers, superior everything. But you've lost 2 people fighting with scraps and determination. How do you explain that with your logic?" Kelthor looked at his crystal sword, then at her simple metal shard. For the first time in his life, his certainty wavered. "You are just one species," he said quietly. "We were never just one species. From the moment you put us all together in this arena, we became something new, something you could never predict or control." Nari stepped closer. "You can kill me right now. Your sword can cut through anything. Your armor can deflect any weapon I have. But it will not matter. The idea has already spread. Hey, people across the galaxy now know they do not have to accept your rule." She held up her crude weapon. "This metal shard cannot defeat your technology, but what it represents can defeat your empire." "What does it represent?" "The refusal to give up. The belief that no matter how hopeless things look, there is always another way. The understanding that we are stronger together than apart." Kelthor lowered his sword. The arena fell completely silent. "I do not know how to fight that," he admitted. Nari dropped her metal shard. "Then do not fight it. Join it." She extended her hand toward him. "Your people do not have to be conquerors. They can be explorers, teachers, partners. Help us build something better than what came before." Kelthor stared at her outstretched hand. Around the arena, thousands watched to see what choice he would make. At the moment stretched on, heavy with possibility. Finally, the war prime of the Warthen Empire did something that no one expected. He removed his helmet, revealing a face that was less alien than anyone had imagined. His crystalline features showed something that might have been hope. He reached out and took Nari's hand. The arena erupted in cheers that could be heard across the planet. But more than that, the image was broadcast across the galaxy. On world, after world, people saw that even the mightiest empire could choose a different path. 6 months later, Nari stood on the observation deck of a new kind of ship. It was built using both human ingenuity and Warthen technology, crewed by beings from dozens of species working together as equals. Her plasma rifle hung at her side, polished and maintained but rarely used. She had learned that a real weapon was not made of metal and energy. It was made of hope and determination and the unshakable belief that things could always be better. Hien Wu joined her at the viewport. The former war-thin colonies are requesting membership in the new alliance. Kelther says they want to learn human diplomatic techniques